Imagine a world where 1 in 9 people go to bed on an empty stomach every night. Does that sound like a dystopian fiction? Unfortunately, it's our reality. A startling paradox plagues our world today. On one hand, we have seen incredible advancements in agriculture, technology, and food production. Our planet produces enough food to feed every single one of its inhabitants. Yet, according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, nearly 820 million people, that's about 1 in 9, still suffer from chronic undernourishment. This is the global hunger paradox. In a world where food overflows in supermarkets and restaurants, where we waste approximately 1/3 of the food produced globally, it's hard to fathom that so many go to bed hungry every night. But this is a stark reality in many parts of the world. From the drought-ridden regions of sub-Saharan Africa to the conflict-ridden corners of the Middle East, hunger has a grip on the lives of millions. But it doesn't stop there. Hunger is not just a problem for the developing world. It is a universal issue that affects even the wealthiest of nations. In the United States, for instance, more than 37 million people struggle with hunger, including over 11 million children. The global hunger paradox is a complex issue, deeply rooted in socioeconomic inequalities and systemic issues. It's a problem of distribution and access, not scarcity. Our world has the resources, the knowledge, and the tools to eradicate hunger. Yet, the food produced doesn't reach the tables of those who need it the most. This paradox is a stark reminder of the work that needs to be done to ensure that everyone, regardless of where they live or their economic status, has access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food. The question is not whether we have enough food but why it doesn't reach those who need it the most. While the effects of hunger are often visible, the causes are complex and multifaceted. Let's take a moment to unravel them. First, conflict and war play a significant role in disrupting food production and distribution. In areas of unrest, farmers are unable to tend their fields, markets are shut down, and food supply chains are broken. This leads to severe food shortages, pushing millions into hunger. Take the case of Yemen, where ongoing conflict has resulted in one of the world's most severe food crises, with over 20 million people experiencing severe food insecurity. Next, climate change is a silent but deadly contributor to global hunger. Unpredictable weather patterns, frequent droughts, floods, and other natural disasters wreak havoc on agriculture. This not only leads to crop failures, but also affects livestock and fisheries, further depriving communities of their primary sources of food and income. For example, in the Sahel region of Africa, recurring droughts have led to repeated crop failures, pushing many into chronic hunger. Lastly, economic factors cannot be overlooked. Poverty and lack of access to markets are significant barriers to food security. Those living in poverty often cannot afford nutritious food, while lack of access to markets can make it difficult for farmers to sell their produce, further exacerbating the cycle of poverty and hunger. Understanding these causes is the first step towards finding sustainable solutions. We must address not only the symptoms of hunger but also its root causes if we are to break the cycle and ensure everyone has access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food. Food insecurity doesn't discriminate, it affects people from all walks of life in every corner of the globe. It's a silent crisis, often overlooked, but its victims are all around us. They are the invisible victims. Imagine a single mother in New York juggling multiple jobs just to keep a roof over her head. But despite her relentless hustle, she's one paycheck away from not being able to put food on the table for her children. That's food insecurity. Or consider an elderly man in the bustling city of Tokyo, living alone and isolated. His pension barely covers his medication, let alone nutritious meals. That's food insecurity. Now let's travel to a remote village in sub-Saharan Africa. A young girl walks miles every day to fetch water, her stomach often empty. Her family's crops have failed again, and they're struggling to find enough to eat. That's food insecurity. Food insecurity is also the reality for a college student in London forced to choose between buying textbooks or groceries. It's the daily challenge for a refugee family in a camp in Syria, uncertain of when their next meal will come. In the United States alone, over 40 million people struggle with food insecurity. And globally, close to 820 million people are living with chronic hunger. These figures are staggering, and they speak to the scale of the problem. But behind every statistic is a human face, a mother, a grandfather, a student, a child. Each one of them has a story, a struggle that often goes unnoticed and unspoken. Food insecurity isn't just about hunger, it's about dignity, it's about health, and it's about potential. It robs individuals of their ability to lead fulfilling and productive lives. It's a complex issue, intertwined with poverty, climate change, and social inequality. These are not just numbers, they are real people with real stories of struggle and survival. Hunger is not just about an empty stomach. It has far-reaching health impacts that extend beyond the pangs of an empty belly. When we think of hunger, we need to think about malnutrition. In developing countries, malnutrition can lead to stunted growth in children, robbing them of their full potential before they've even had a chance to explore it. This is a tragedy that unfolds over 155 million times each year around the world. But it's not just in developing countries where we see the devastating health impacts of hunger. Even in developed nations, food insecurity can lead to chronic diseases like diabetes and heart disease. When families are forced to choose between paying for medical care or nutritious food, often it's the latter that gets sacrificed. The result is a diet that's high in calories but low in nutrients, setting the stage for these chronic conditions. And let's not forget about the mental health impacts. The constant stress of not knowing where your next meal will come from can lead to anxiety and depression. For children, this can disrupt their ability to learn and develop, creating a cycle of poverty and food insecurity that can be hard to break. Hunger is a health issue. Addressing it is not just a matter of filling bellies, it's about improving overall health and well-being. It's about giving every person, regardless of where they live, the chance to live a healthy, productive life. Because no one can thrive on an empty stomach. Now that you know the gravity of the issue, you might be asking yourself, what can I do to help? A question that weighs heavily on many minds, and the answer is simpler than you might think. You don't need to be a world leader or a billionaire philanthropist to make a difference. The fight against global hunger starts at home, with small, mindful actions that can have a significant impact. Of the easiest ways to contribute is by reducing food waste. In our own homes, we often throw away food that could have been eaten. By planning our meals better, storing food correctly, and being creative with leftovers, we can make sure that more food ends up on plates rather than in the trash. This not only helps to conserve resources, but also reduces the demand for food, which can help to stabilize food prices and make it more affordable for everyone. Another way to help is by supporting organizations that fight hunger. There are countless charities and nonprofits out there working tirelessly to provide food and resources to those in need. These organizations rely on donations and volunteers to carry out their important work. By donating money, time, or even your skills, you can contribute to their efforts and make a real difference. You can also use your voice to raise awareness about food insecurity. Talk to your friends, family, and community about the issue. Share information and stories on social media. Advocate for policies that promote food security and challenge those that do not. Your voice is powerful, and it can help to influence change. Is another powerful tool in the fight against hunger? By learning more about the issue and understanding the root causes, we can develop more effective solutions and strategies. Knowledge is power, and the more we know, the better equipped we are to tackle this global challenge. Remember, every action counts. Together we can end hunger and ensure that every person has access to the food they need. As we look to the future, the fight against hunger is more important than ever. The world is changing rapidly, and with these changes come new challenges and opportunities for ensuring food security. One of the most promising developments is the role of technology. With advancements in logistics and data analysis, we can improve the distribution of food and significantly reduce waste. Imagine a world where food is delivered to those who need it most, exactly when they need it. That's the potential power of technology in our fight against hunger. Equally vital is the promotion of sustainable farming practices. Traditional farming methods often lead to soil degradation, water pollution, and deforestation, all of which threaten our ability to produce enough food in the future. But through sustainable practices, we can protect our environment and ensure that we can feed our growing population for generations to come. And then there are the innovative solutions that could revolutionize the way we produce food. Vertical farming, for example, allows us to grow crops in urban areas, reducing the need for transportation and the associated carbon emissions. Lab-grown meat, on the other hand, could provide a sustainable and ethical alternative to traditional livestock farming. The future of food security is in our hands. It's a future where technology, sustainability, and innovation combine to ensure that no one goes to bed hungry. But it will only become a reality if we continue to fight, to learn, and to act. So let's make it a future worth fighting for. Together, we can end hunger and ensure that every person has access to the food they need.